Boom, boom. How's it going? How's it going? Yay! It is I again, your boy, TJ. And today I've got someone else new. It is 2021. So we bring out new faces. Yeah. And he's showing off with his cool background of elephants and things like that. I think he's still on holiday. I don't know. But ladies and gentlemen, and if you don't know anything about property, in your team, there are certain people that you need to have. You need an accountant, you need a tax person, you need to have a lawyer, you need to have builders and so on. But there's one person that a lot of people don't speak to about, and this is a town planner. And I've been hanging out for a while now, for the last couple of months, I think a year or so, with the Dumi Bosocha, and he is one of the key people within my team that I consult on deals from time to time because he's a town planner. Without wasting time, I'm going to introduce you to Dumi Sani. I call him Dumi. How's it going, Dumi?
We are good, and yourself?
Very well, thanks, man.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Awesome. Dumi, who is Dumi and what do you do?
Okay, Dumi Sani, it's a rural boy from Mpumalanga, if I can say. Right. By profession, I'm a town planner, qualified town planner. I've been a town planner now for the last 15 years. Worked in local government, and sometime back, 2013, decided, no man, let me venture out and try a new thing. You know, as some of us get bored to do one and the same thing every day. So I said, you know what, let me go out there, face new challenges, see if one cannot inspire others. Can't you create more employment opportunities, especially in our country where things like jobs are very scarce? So in a nutshell, I'm a town planner registered with the South African Council of Town Planners, and I've been practicing in this field, like I said, for the last 15 years. Yes, sir.
Dumisane, let's talk about your background. Yes. I think, you know, when we start seeing people in certain offices, we just think that they were born there. And I'm glad that you started off saying that I'm a rural guy. Where in Mpumalanga are you from?
All right. I'm from a small village called Ratoke, just outside Danalton. One of the towns where we buy, it's Marble Hall. I grew up there, did my primary school there, and it's my secondary that I came and did in Gauteng, and after that went to varsity. But very much passionate about nature, love gardening, you know. Love playing with donkeys, so and all because we have donkeys at home. So donkeys, we have some cattle. So love being out there and doing nature. That's me.
Nice, nice. And there you are. You're a town planner, and I think for me, I always say that your background on who you are kind of like defines who you can be in the future. In terms of if you're to look into it and intentionally decide to do certain things.
Yes.
But it doesn't define that you are going to now be X, you know?
Yes.
So coming through from a rural areas, a lot of people would think statistically, you're not going to be count to anything. But there you are, you're a businessman, you are a town planner, and you're a job creator. These are some of the problems that the president today is faced with as a challenge. And you and I, we get to also partner up with him to solve these problems.
Yes.
As entrepreneurs. So high five to you on that, and well done.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
What is town planning?
Okay, maybe let me just give a brief history. Town planning began in the 1800s, and the field was brought in. At the time, it was not town planning, but it was just a group of people that wanted to organize cities and towns. And the reason for that was that there was a lot of sickness and diseases that was being caused by how towns were organized at the time. There was no proper channel of sewer, no proper channel of wastewater and all of that. So people were just, you know, pouring things everywhere, scattering, and that started creating sickness and diseases. And a group of people sat and say, how can we arrange so that we do not live in what we call squalors, or we live in the middle of dumps, but we can dump the waste somewhere and it's channeled and where people stay, it's neat and clean and everything else. And that's how it came about town planning to start. So it was just a matter of rearranging things, yes.
I think they called this the medieval era in the 1800s. Yes. And yes. I would say that I always say I'm British, because I was colonized by the British. So
yes.
So I think it was within the British where they actually came up with this, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Because they were having, I think it was cholera and diarrhea was quite ripe at the time. Yes. And people used to die in, like what we're having in COVID right now.
Yes.
It was almost like that, but actually much bigger. People would die from having green nails and their bodies would change. Yes. And it's amazing that we are talking about these kind of diseases when we also have COVID. So we're thinking the world is coming to an end, but there is a profession that actually started with disease.
Exactly. And even now with the COVID, there's an opportunity in terms of planning of how we channel things, how we arrange activities. And with the fourth industrial revolution giving us that niche and that advantage, it's time for also planners and other professionals to reinvent ourselves and look to say, okay, here it's an opportunity, because I am a firm believer of in every situation, there's an opportunity. And it depends on how you view it and how you interact with it. So even through COVID, there's a lot of opportunities that one can identify. In town planning, we deal with people on a daily basis. We deal with municipalities face to face. And this has presented a new opportunity to say, okay, how can we do this? Because we have been talking about going into paperless activities and all of that. COVID has presented that. We no longer have to literally meet people face to face, but we can meet, like me and you now I having this conversation. I'm somewhere, you are somewhere else, we are meeting. So it's part of planning also to see how we arrange that and make sure that people can still move around and do their day-to-day activities, but with the minimum contact with each other.
Awesome stuff.
Face to face, yes.
I like that thinking. In town planning, it almost sounds to me that it is all about looking at your current problems and saying how best can we future-proof the same. So let's come back to what is town planning. So how did it evolve to become town planning?
Yes. Okay. So as and when after they found solutions to say, okay, now we have to rearrange things. Like you said, things like cholera, and at that time it was a dangerous disease, because people now were trying to find out what causes this entire thing. And after they discovered what was the cause of it, then they came up to say, okay, let's draw up a plan. And on the plan, let's just start categorizing to say, we'll have residential facilities here, we'll have business facilities here, we'll have industrial facilities here, in order to minimize things like air pollution also, within a residential area. But it evolved even further when now, things like cars were introduced into now life. And as that started happening, now you needed now to also plan your roads, because you cannot just have roads that are just flying everywhere else, because they are going to cause unnecessary accidents. And that's when now they said, okay, we do a comprehensive plan that is going to include infrastructure in terms of where the water, the sewer has to run, where electricity has to be, where the roads should be, where schools, and also looking in terms of minimizing movement of people, to say you must not drive long or walk very long to get to a school, for an example. And that's how, because if you look at our planning, especially in our older townships and CBDs, you'll see that we were following, like you said, the British planning. When you look at our designs, they are so close to the British one, because those were the people that colonized and came into South Africa at the time.
Right. Yes. So in terms of where we are now in town planning, we almost want to say that our cities are established, right? So are there still do we still have a lot of town planning to do? And this question is more around, so what does a town planner do on an everyday? Because we already have the towns established.
Yes, okay. Most of our towns, especially our suburbs and our CBDs, were in South Africa, were actually planned by civil engineers because we didn't have town planners in South Africa at the time. When your CBD in Joburg started, when the gold rush and everything, it was civil engineers that did the planning. That's why you have so much grid roads. You know, you have a traffic sign after a traffic sign after a traffic sign after a traffic sign, because they were not thinking of flowing of the traffic and all of that. For them, it was just to ensure that, you know, things are just there in place. However, town planning still has a lot of work. One of the things I say this to a lot of our people to say, if you look at our CBDs, they are not correctly planned, they are not correctly densified, and there's other buildings that end up just dilapidating because no one can have a solution of how they can be used. And that's where a town plan now comes in to say, okay, you've been having this building that has been used for banking for many years, but banks have decided to move out of the CBD into malls, because now we have these shopping malls that are everywhere else. So you cannot just leave this building hanging.
Which is also a new concept, right? So in Africa, I think South Africa, Zambia, Ghana are potentially the only countries that have malls.
Yes. So, and the impact of that is that now you start having some of the core businesses in the financial sector moving out of the CBDs, following these malls, because everyone is going there in terms of buying and, you know, doing their shopping facilities and activities. So you now are left with this building in the middle of, for an example, in the middle of Krugersdorp, you are left with this 2-3 story building, very big, still structurally sound, but not being used for anything. So to avoid it being vandalized, as a town planner, you come and say, why don't we propose social housing? The reason being, we have a lot of people that do not qualify for bonds, do not qualify to buy a house, but they qualify into a certain category. They can qualify to pay rent in a social housing. We turn that building into a social housing, family units within the CBD. They still can access other things within the CBD. You look at how far it's a primary school, how far it's a secondary school. And the other added advantage is that the CBD, remember, is part of job creation, it's part of job opportunities. So people can walk to work than drive to work. And also you are resolving another challenge of climate change, where there's less carbon emission. So town planners still have a lot of work to be done. If you now drive into the CBD, you'll see there's buildings that are being converted into residential apartments, residential accommodation.
Jewel City is one of them that recently came up.
Exactly. You see, so the other thing, the nicest thing is that town planners work with different professionals, because as a town planner, I need to work with an architect who's going to design the building. For me, it's to ensure that the use of the building has the correct rights to say it can be used for residential accommodation, and how many units in there can you convert it to? Because you as an investor, you are not concerned about normally how the building is going to look much, but you are concerned about how many people can I accommodate, how many units can I put in there, because that result into your investment having a return. Because if you're going to invest a lot of money but you don't get the returns, you are not going to have anyone wanting to invest into that building. Yes.
Dumisani, you introduced two words that I want to say to you. What do they mean? And give us a little bit more context. So the first word is carbon emission. So that's the first one you spoke to just now. And the second word that you spoke about is densification, all right?
Yes.
What does those two words, what do they mean? And why are they important in your profession?
Okay. Currently, the entire world, especially your first world countries, have been having this big debates. I'll say a big debate and an argument about carbon emission, because carbon emission is the debt that is exerted or the debt that is generated by either industry or motor vehicles And as and when we produce goods, you know, we need to burn coal, we need to burn other chemicals that start producing what we call carbon dioxide. And that carbon dioxide is not good for the atmosphere because the atmosphere can only handle a certain level, you know, or a certain limit. Same as with you as a person, you can only drink water up until a certain level unless you are not going to be able to take it in because you will be full, you know. You'll keep on taking, but you'll come to a point where you can't take it in anymore. Same as the atmosphere, same as the environment. It can take carbon emission, but to a certain limit. But with the change in industrial revolution, we started having more and more carbon that is exerted into the atmosphere, changing how the atmosphere. That's why sometimes we have, you know, rain patterns that are not consistent. Sometimes you have drought for many years, or sometimes you have this rain that causes floods and all of so. That comes from the carbon emission. To say the environment can no longer handle, and then the temperatures and the weather start changing. The weather patterns are different. If we're expecting to have rained, you know, with this milliliters, it end up exceeding that because of such. Then the second one, which you said, densification. So densification is just, in easier terms, just say, in a piece of land, if I have a 500 square meter land, how many units can I put there? So in town planning, we calculate that from a hectare. So we'll say from 1 hectare, I can put 60 dwelling units. Then from the 60 dwelling units, if I had now to take it down to 500 square meters, then I have now to do a calculation to say how many units can I fit. Then the densification is just say, how many more can you add there, you see? So if you were to have a glass of water, how much water can that glass take? It reaches a limit to say, when it's, you know, at the top, it's full. Anything you pour there, then starts spilling out, you see. So densification, I can explain it in that sense and in that form.
Okay. Now, having someone like you around, and we're talking about all of this, why would someone who is starting property investing, or maybe who's actually an investor in property, in layman terms, why would they want to have you on their team? What are the skills that you bring in to someone who is property investing?
Okay, let's put it to a realistic example. I have a client who is Sipho. Sipho buys a property in Lenasia South.
Yeah.
And Sipho.
But I think you're being discriminative here. Why didn't you say you got a client called Taurai? I'm here, I'm your client. I use your services. Now you're talking about people. Aye.
Okay, I have my client who's Taurai. They buy a property in TEF Club, you know, just downtown the CBD. Their intention is we want to do rental stock. And part of us doing rental stock, we are looking to get high numbers in terms of density and the number of units so that we can get high returns. However, not also compromising quality, access, efficiency, and all of these things. So Taurai goes and buy a property. After he has purchased, registered in his name, he goes to the municipality and wants to submit building plans to build a 5-story building. Then the municipality says, no, it cannot be done. Then Taurai said, but this is my land. They say, we understand it's your land. But where it's situated, it's not where 5-story buildings will be allowed. It's not where 10 units per hectare can be built. You can only build one house on that property. What has happened? Taurai has invested. Now, it means he has even now lost some of his investment because he can only build one unit, but that was not his intention. And he's paying maybe a bond towards that land. And he would have thought that by 3-4 years, I would have paid and finalized that bond because I would have built and people would be staying in. I would be taking the money from the rent and refinancing my bond. But now he's stuck with this problem. To avoid that problem, what Taurai needed to have done? Consult Dumi and say, I have this property I'm thinking to buy. You as the town planner advise me. I go to the municipal policies, which we have what you call special development framework. It's just a vision to say in 5 years how the municipality must transform. where the densities are going to go up, where the densities cannot go up, where business can be, where industry can be. I would go to that place and say, hey, wait a minute, property you are buying, we cannot do anything on it. My advice would be, if you are buying to keep for yourself, it's fine. But if you are buying for investment, don't go for that property. Rather go 2-3 streets from where you are, look there, because there you can get a 5-story building. You can be able to build 200 units into that building. And you can even get parking relaxation, because if it was going to need 200 parking bays, we can be able to get 100 parking bays, which still saves you space. And it's even on next to the main road, which is a public transport carrying road. People might not even need cars. They can use public transport because it will be there and it works out cheaper. And while they're in public transport, some of them can work on their laptops and everything else, because when you drive, you get distracted. You can't work, but you find that sometimes you sit on traffic for 2 hours. In that 2 hours, they would have saved what? Some of their work activities that they needed to have done. When they arrive at the office or wherever they work, they're actually 2 hours ahead than everyone else. Yes.
So Dumisani, you say something pretty important here around, the example that you've given. And to me, it sounds like you're an advisor, and you're an advisor on the basis of your skill of being a town planner. So it's pretty clear the do's and the don'ts, and you have that information. I don't have it, but you've got it, that information. And the bulk of that information then also sits with the council itself. And the council, at many a times, they change these. So I might say, you know what, I don't want a town planner. I'm going to do this on my own. But because there's all these changes that are coming in, it's pretty difficult for a person like me, who's not a town planner, to be always catching up on what they're doing. And hence, people like you are very important to be on a team of someone who is serious about their journey on town planning. I want to make a confession that I've fallen in both circumstances, as in Dumisani's examples. At one point, I had bought something and I consulted Dumisani to say, can we do this? And he says, no, you have reached the full capacity of densification, and we were actually hoping to do something else there. And I have then written a long love letter, but no, Dumisani, you see, this property is in an area like this. And Dumisani just responded and said, the area does not allow it, so we're not going to get it. Simple like that, right? And on the other side, I've then also consulted with you and on something that I'm working on, and you've given me green light. And I think this is where another conversation kicks in, because if I look at when we started having conversations to where we are now in my relationship with you, some of the projects that I started talking to you about, they're only materializing a little bit later, 3-4 months down the drain, because when I consult with you, I haven't even bought this place. So now I need to go to the bank, or I need to find the money, I need to register it. And only when I have full control of the property, only can you now start executing for me. So I think a lot of people think that town planner is, you go in, you consult, you got your answers sharp. It's actually a little bit of a relationship building, because at average, what is your time on a project, Dumisani, at average?
Okay. Yes, all right. So majority of the projects that normally happen, we'll even go a bit back when you said we have towns, do they still need to be, planned? So we have towns, but they are not fully densified. You still have, for an example, I would own a land of 2,000 square meters, but in reality, I only use 500 square meters. Right. And it's a big garden at the back. I can't maintain it anymore and everything else. Then Dumisani would also come again and say, okay, Taura, you have this 2,000 squares. Wouldn't it be best you subdivide, develop, maybe subdivide it into 3. The other one is where your house is at. The other 2, build houses, start your property portfolio already with just those 2, because you already have the land. You don't even need to go and source the land. Then I'll come as a town planner, prepare an application submit it to the municipality, it gets advertised for public participation, it gets circulated to the various municipal entities like for sewer and water, stormwater, the traffic side, the city power and all of that.
Yeah.
Then it gets approved. When it's approved, we give you what we call the subdivision diagrams to say these are approved. You can either register them again with yourself or with a new person that would be buying if you are selling. You see. So as a town planner, a minimum that an application normally would take, it's 3 months. And then because it depends on the categories of applications. We have a consent use where you are just asking to say, on my current property where I stay, can I operate a crèche? Then council would say yes, submit a consent use. A town planner would come, prepare the application, have public participation conducted on it, circulate it to all the necessary departments, get the green light, it's approved. You can stay while you are running your crèche or a guest house. You have a subdivision, like I said, where you cut land into smaller pieces. You have consolidation where you take smaller pieces or large pieces of land, combine them to make even a bigger piece for maybe bigger developments. Then you have what we call a township establishment. So township establishment can only happen on a farm portion or on an agricultural holding. So what does that mean? Meaning that I'm taking this farm, I'm converting it into smaller pieces of land for residential, for business, for commercial. So that's a township establishment. It can take anything between 18 to 24 months because it gets circulated into many departments. You work now with your geotechnical engineers, your civil engineers, your traffic engineers, and other professionals to bring this farm portion into a reality of a township. Yes.
Right. Okay. Awesome stuff. I think we're going to be here for a long time, and there is quite a lot to unpack in town planning. But today, I think I want to end it here in terms of we now understand what is a town planner and some of the benefits that can come through with the town planner. So Dumi-san, I'd like to thank you for today and say to you who is listening, and if this is something that you have enjoyed listening to and you want to listen to a little bit more, there is plenty of other videos that we will be doing and we have done around town planning. And it is now time for you to hit that subscription button, hit that subscribe button, so that whenever we are talking about this, you get the notification. But we'll check you out on the next video. Cheers.
Keep well.